This is a Fox News alert. Minutes ago, the Associated Press reporting that federal jail guards are suspected of falsifying log entries to show that they were checking on inmates in Jeffrey Epstein's unit every half hour. The AP source, the one they cite, says they weren't actually checking on them and these logs were falsified. So surveillance video reviewed after the death showed that guards never made some of the checks that were noted in the log. Again, this is the Associated Press. We're working to independently confirm that. In the meantime, let's go to correspondent Brian Yennis with more on this rapidly unfolding investigation.
Today, Attorney General William Barr temporarily reassigned the warden of the Metropolitan Correctional Center where Jeffrey Epstein died of an apparent suicide. He also placed the 2 guards assigned to Epstein's unit on administrative leave, pending the outcome of the investigations by the Department of Justice and the FBI. The moves come a day after Barr cited serious irregularities at MCC. The Associated Press reports one of the 2 guards was a substitute and not a correctional officer. The union representing the guards tells Fox News Epstein's death is the fault of the Bureau of Prisons for systemic understaffing and overworked guards. This, as the New York Post reports, Epstein hanged himself Saturday with a bedsheet wrapped around his neck and tied to the top of a bunk bed in his jail cell, apparently kneeling toward the floor and strangling himself. The criminal investigation to Epstein's alleged sex trafficking network is now zeroing in on Epstein's alleged co-conspirators, like Epstein's former girlfriend, 57-year-old Ghislaine Maxwell. In unsealed court documents, Virginia Giuffre, one of Epstein's accusers, calls Maxwell a primary co-conspirator and a madam who used to procure underage girls for sexual activities. This a day after FBI agents raided Epstein's so-called pedophile island, his home on a private U.S. Virgin Island where he allegedly trafficked underage girls. President Donald Trump today defended his retweet over the weekend of a conspiracy theory implying the Clintons had something to do with Epstein's death.
And the question you have to ask is, did Bill Clinton go to the island? Because Epstein had an island. That was not a good place, as I understand it, and I was never there. So you have to ask, did Bill Clinton go to the island? That's the question. I want a full investigation, and that's what I absolutely am demanding.
Lawyers for Epstein's accusers are now asking a federal judge to dismiss Epstein's non-prosecution agreement, especially parts that offered immunity to his co-conspirators. Shannon?
All right, Brian, thank you very much. I want to bring in the former acting attorney general, Matt Whitaker, to talk about this. First of all, your reaction to that report from the AP that these logs may have been falsified. It may show video shows that they weren't actually there for the times that they did enter on the log, that they were checking on people.
Well, it seems like every hour we learn new facts that raise additional questions that are unanswered. And so I am sure that right now Bill Barr is just waiting for the next shoe to drop to find out what else happened at this facility. But it's really concerning. But one of the things that I think everybody needs to remember, this case is not over just because of this death. That, we just had a raid, a search warrant was executed on this compound. That's going to generate tons of evidence that is going to be sorted through. It could not only turn out to be more victims, but we could also have more co-conspirators. And I think that's a big deal for these victims, is to get some justice and to make sure that this case isn't over and that the prosecutors continue to press forward with the charges as to whoever's culpable, because these crimes are inexcusable and we have to have them fully prosecuted.
And I think for public confidence, too, people want to see this case through and hear from these alleged co-conspirators and have them answer.
Yeah, and one of the good news that I think was underreported is when Bill Barr first heard about this, and he said, I'm going to have the FBI look into it in addition to the Inspector General, Michael Horowitz. What people need to understand is because Horowitz involved is now we'll have a public report. We'll have transparency. And Horowitz has a lot of experience with the BOP, and especially up in New York City. Yeah, with the Bureau of Prisons. And so I think Horowitz is the perfect person to sort of tell the story as to where these systemic failures occurred and to make sure that they don't happen again, because this is really inexcusable and disappointing, but at the same time, this case isn't over and the victims are going to get justice.
Well, I think a lot of people have the same questions. Town Hall, under the headline today, reports of shrieking heard from Epstein's jail. Quote, pedophile island wired with video for blackmail, question mark. This is by Guy Benson. He says, shouldn't extra attention have been paid to arguably the most infamous federal inmate awaiting trial, especially someone who'd already either tried to kill himself or suffered an assault while behind bars, and especially someone who potentially to likely had significant dirt on a whole cabal of wealthy and powerful people. I think that's the number one question from people. Like, how was this guy? Listen, if you're saying resources are short and you can't cover every prison the way that you want to, this guy was the number one in custody waiting a trial, most high profile, potentially dirt on everyone, inmate. How does this happen?
Well, and they had already segregated him to the special housing unit, or what's known as the SHU, and he should have had extra attention. And so all the protocols and the checklists that should have been followed, and especially in a defendant like him and his situation and the crimes he's accused of, there is really no reason that these failures should have happened. And in fact, as you point out, there should have been enhanced procedures because of the previous attempt or assault. I'm most likely an attempt, and now the success. I mean, there were failures, but there should have been so many more enhanced procedures that it's really inexcusable how we find ourselves here today.
Yeah, the Attorney General said this, quote, "We will get to the bottom of what happened, and there will be accountability." A Vermont law school professor on another network, Jennifer Taub, said this about the Attorney General.
It really is important, for the victims and to restore trust in our criminal justice system that he recuse himself from this investigation and let it be handled in a way that will restore confidence and do justice for these victims.
You talked about the fact that the Inspector General Horowitz is the one who's going to be handling this. Is that going to be enough of a separation for people to trust what they see?
There is no doubt in my mind. I think that's not a hot take, and it's not even a reasonable take. I think that's someone that obviously, yeah, I think it's a purely political take. There's no reason for Bill Barr to recuse himself in this case, and in fact, we want the Attorney General to be involved in this because that's the only person that can bring the kind of change to BOP that's going to be necessary after we find out what happened.
Any idea how long a report like this involving the Inspector General will take? These aren't overnight.
Yeah, they're not overnight, and in my experience, having waited for the 2016 election report to come out, it just seemed like it took forever, and now we're waiting, obviously, on another report to come out, we've heard in September. But in this case where there's a discrete set of facts, the Inspector General has a large staff of over 400 investigators, and so I would fully expect that they could get this done really quickly. But they're going to want to be precise, and they're going to want to be complete, and that's going to take some time. But I because it's a very finite and discrete set of facts, I think they can do it quicker than maybe some of these other opuses that they've been doing.
Yeah. And as you said, this will be public, so hopefully sooner rather than later we will all get some answers. Matt Whitaker, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.